MEVI is a new breakthrough in component procurement. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Assembled Vaishnava devotees. And all glories to Srila Gurudev. We thank you for being here today. We have His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, who needs no further introduction, who will be speaking to us from the Srimad Bhagavatam today. And with that being said, Salika Prabhu, if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and then you take it over.
Hare Krishna. Just congrats, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narachavam Naruttamam Devi Sarasvati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udhiraye Nasta Apraishu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamansloki Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, chapter 7, text number 24. The cosmic manifestation. Yasman adat udade uda bayanga vepo maragam sapadya aripuram aravadida akshaho dore surin matita rusha susuna adrishta tata pyamana makaruraga nakra achakra Yasma adat udade uda bayanga vepo maragam sapadya aripuram aravadida akshaho dure surin maitita grosha susuna adrisya tatapyamanam makaruraga nakra achakraha Yasmat adat udade udabayanga vepo maragam sapada aripura arava didaksyo dure surin matita rusa shushuna adrisya tata pyamana makarura gana kracha. What for translation? Yasma, unto whom Adahat gave, Udahadihi, the great ocean, Udahabaya, affected by fear, Angavepa, bodily trembling, Maragaham, way, Sapadi, quickly, Aripuram, the city of the enemy, Ara Vahat, like that of Ara Mahadev, did Akshoho, desiring to burn to ashes, Durehe, at a long distance, Su Orate, intimate friend, Mati Taha, being aggrieved by, Roshaha, in anger, Susunaha, red hot, Drishtia, by such a glance, Tadapyamana, burning in a heat, Makara, sharks, Uragaha, snakes, Nakraha, crocodiles, Chakraha, circle. Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace, La Esi Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Patita Pavan Jaga Guru Seva Dvashita Prabhupada Ki Jai. The personality of God is Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant, intimate friend, Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy, Ravana, with red hot eyes, like those of Ara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. the great ocean. Trembling in fear gave him his way because his family members, the aquatics like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burned by the heat of the angry red hot eyes of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, led by Charanaravinda Sibhakti Vedanta Swami Patita Pavanjala Bishop Pariki Jai. The personality of Godhead has every sentiment of a sentient being, like all other living beings, because He is the chief and original living entity, the supreme source of all other living beings. He is the Nitya, or the chief eternal amongst all other eternals. He is the chief one, and all others are the dependent many. The many eternals are supported by the one eternal, and thus both the eternals are qualitatively one. Due to such oneness, both the eternals constitutionally have a complete range of sentiments. But the difference is that the sentiments of the chief eternal are different in quantity from the sentiment of the dependent eternals. When Ramachandra was angry and showed his red hot eyes, the whole ocean became heated with that energy, so much so that the aquatics within the great ocean felt the heat. So much so that the aquatics within the great ocean felt the heat, and the personified ocean trembled in fear and offered an easy path for reaching the enemy's city. The impersonalists will see havoc in this red hot sentiment of the Lord because they want to see negation in perfection. Because the Lord is absolute, the impersonalists imagine that in the absolute, the sentiment of anger, which resembles mundane sentiments, must be conspicuous by absence. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they do not realize that the sentiment of the absolute person is transcendental to all mundane concepts of quality and quantity. Had Lord Ramachandra's sentiment been of mundane origin, how could it disturb the whole ocean and its inhabitants? Can any mundane red hot eye generate heat in the great ocean? These are factors to be distinguished in terms of the personal and impersonal conception of the absolute truth. As it is said in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the absolute truth is the source of everything, so the absolute person cannot be devoid of the sentiments that are reflected in the temporary mundane world. Rather, the different sentiments found in the absolute, either in anger or in mercy, have the same qualitative influence. Or, in other words, there is no mundane difference of value because these sentiments are all on the absolute plane. Such sentiments are definitely not in the absolute, as the impersonalists think, making their mundane estimation of the transcendental world. Umagyanam timirandasya gyanam shalakaya chakshu umilitam jena tasmai shri gurave namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Damaya Dadati Swam Padantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnava Cha Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Saganam Ragunatam Vitam Tam Saajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Paritanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Divam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vikshaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Purangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripat Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Vancha Kalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Evascha Patitanam Pavashnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Shri Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Yasmam Adad Udadi Uda Bayam Gailepo Maragam Sapadi Adipu Ramaravad Adi Bidakshaho Dore Surim Matita Rusa Sushuna Dristiya Tata Pyamana Makaru Ragana Prachapraha. The personality of God, Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant, intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy, Ravana, with red-hot eyes, like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven, the great ocean. Trembling in fear, gave him his way because his family members, the aquatics like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burned by the heat of the angry red-hot eyes of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, thank you very much for being here today for today's Srimad Bhagavatam. We're discussing 2nd Canto, chapter 7. We're taking our text from text number 24, which is a continuation of reading and describing the specific inclinations of the natural Godhead. And this particular text, before we delve into rendering the service of speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, we offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of God and Narayan, who is the Supremos human being. We offer respect to Narayan Rishi, the Supremos human being, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, to all the acharyas in the disciple section, to our superiors, contemporaries, and all of the devotees, for those who are here and those who are listening from other channels. We pray that by your mercy, we shall be able to render this service for our purification, for the pleasure of the Lord, and for the satisfaction of the devotees. So this verse is specifically talking about the human-like qualities of the Supreme Personality of God, which is a subject matter very difficult for one who is not a bhakta. Generally, when we talked about God, or the Supreme Personality of God as a devotee will address him, it's a subject that bewilders the mind of general mass of people. Although the most commonly talked about subject matter is God, but he is the most difficult to comprehend. And that is why we see that across the world, there is some form of understanding of God or the Supreme Being in one way or the other. For those who are on the path of bhakti, they're so fortunate. And the devotee never knows how much fortunate he is until when he gets to hear someone who is not of fortune, who has not come to the platform of bhakti, how he understand or she understand God. When I was looking at this text this afternoon before the class, I was just remembering a scenario that happened about a week ago. In a particular preaching forum, as part of the activities of visiting holy sites, we had about 85 participants in the program who are members of different religious traditions. And as a part of the visit to the holy site, we visited a particular Hindu temple, as they will call it. And the typical of Indian cultural temples, we have home of deities. Of course, in our ISKCON temples, sometimes we find so many deities. Sometimes we have altars that are big, there's 3 altars, some altars are more. But typical of Indian temple or Indian cultural temple, which can be very confusing sometimes, is that we have almost about 9 or so 10 altars in that temple. And all of the altars are on the same platform. From the right-hand side, we have Shiva Ling. And that was the first time I'm seeing Shiva Ling with Mother Parvati together. Then after that altar, there was the altar of Lord Shiva himself with Mother Parvati sitting on his lap. And just below them, they have their son, Kartikeya. And the next altar, we had Durga Devi. And like this, we have several deities, but they're all on the all different same platform, magnificently decorated. In one of the altars, we had Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman. In one altar, we had Ganesh. In another altar, we had the altar of Gopinath. In another altar, we have the Hanuman in another altar. So those who are not familiar with the part of Vedic culture, when we got here, we visited about few temples, few churches, synagogue. And when we got here, they were, of course, the beauty, the Lord is so magnificently beautiful because in the center of the temple is Radha Krishna deities. So every participant were looking at who is a Hindu traditional person here. I was the only one, apart from the host. And the scenario was that the host was, as it is the practice, the host was supposed to explain the significance of what is being seen in the environment. Unfortunately, the host happens to be a young Indian boy who is of Indian origin, who is about the age of about 35, 36 years old, but who has been to India only twice in his whole lifetime. He was born in Africa, he was moved to Europe, and he grew up in Europe, and he saw his parents worshiping all of the deities. So he is the one that was supposed to present this God. So they were asking, the participants were asking questions. So who is this? What is the significance of all of these many forms that we're seeing here? And they started explaining, this is God. And they go to the next altar, who is this? This is God. This is God. So people became confused. And when I saw the situation, I said I had to come forward here. I normally would not like to go forward when we go into such an environment, but I said this one, I had to do some kind of damage control. So I came forward. Then I took all of the participants. I said, please follow me. I will explain the significance of each of them to you. So I started explaining each of all of these deities. And when I explained, we ask everybody to sit down. But the insignificance of this story is that after explaining everything, because this young man was explaining, this is God, this is God, this is God, this is God. So there's one intelligent lady there. She's a Muslim with this Muslim cover for the women. So she asked a very smart, intelligent question. He said, you have showed so many gods. So which among them is God? Although you said all of them is God, but at the same time, we know that God is one. So which among all of this is God? And the guy was confused. He didn't know. He said they are all gods. And the woman asked, yes, I know they are all gods. You said it, but who is this God? Of course, she doesn't know the terminology supreme God. So I came forward. And I tell the lady, I said, well, thank you very much for smartly asking a very smart question. I said, but God is the most interesting subject matter and is the most complex subject matter in the world. When you talk about God, even though the God represents the most supreme person, the cause of all causes as is described in this text, I said, everybody wants to know God, but do not want to know what it takes or what is the qualification for knowing God. So I asked her, I said, before answering you, I'll do like a typical Nigerian man. I'll ask you a question with question. I said, you are asking, who is God? So I said, if I show you God, will you be able to identify him? To enter into an aeroplane, to come to this location, you have a qualification, you have to have a ticket. To take a pure water or sachet water on the table of a dispenser, you have to have some qualification, some money. I said, but unfortunately, everyone wants to know God or see God without qualification of what it is to know God. I said, this is the challenge. Then I went ahead to explain. Why am I narrating this story? The story goes on and on. It was an interesting interactive section. But here we're discussing Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his human-like quality of anger. And this is what is bewildering to impersonalists and one who is not trained on the part of Vedic scripture. In the Western theology, like the Bible, the Quran, we've seen a different story that tells about God being angry. There's a specific story in the Bible that talks about the anger of the Lord towards the Israelites. And because God was angry with the Israelites, he allowed their enemy to overrun them and kill them in multitude. So for a mundane person, this concept of God being angry is unacceptable, because God can only be God if he does not exhibit the quality that is present in man. And that is why Lord Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that Jamma karma chami edivyam evam yo veti tatata. Tatwa deha punar jamma, 90 man, eti isojuna. The one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the present body, takes birth again. Because this subject matter is the essence of all knowledge. How God can possess a material world, because the material world is characterized by the dualities. So the living entities have the categorization of good and bad. And because of the mundane understanding, we have classified certain things to be bad. If someone tells lies, it is considered to be bad. But Lord Krishna instructed Yudhishthira in the battlefield of Kurukshetra to tell lies. And because he did not tell lies, he has to be punished. How can one understand this? How can one understand this transcendental nature of the Lord? That is what this text today we are reading is describing. And Prabhupada is affirming here that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he himself is a person, he has the quality that the living entity, because the living entity cannot have something that does not exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If the living entity has something, an iota of something that does not exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it must mean that he is the Supreme. But then, how can God possess that quality that is considered to be bad? And that is what the essence of this verse is talking about. Because Krishna is transcendental. Krishna is not influenced by the dualities, because everything is emanating from Krishna. And Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, and he quoted the beginning of the Bhagavatam, the first canto, chapter 1, verse number 1. Prabhupada quoted that verse. Prabhupada was quoting Lord Srila Vyasadeva when he's starting the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the Supreme Personality of God is independent, there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who in the beginning imparted the Vedic knowledge unto Srila Vyasadeva, to Brahma. Krishna is the cause of all causes. Everything is emanating from him, from all the Vedic religious scriptures. This assertion is exhibited everywhere. That Krishna is the source of all sources, is the cause of all causes. Lord Brahma, after meditation, after realizing, he explained, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigra Anadyadi Govindam Sarvakara Nampara. And in his realization, Lord Brahma, he said, even study of the Vedas does not give you qualification to be able to understand this transcendental nature, activities of the Supreme Personality of God. Videshu Dulabam Adulabam Atma Bhaktau. That Supreme Personality of God, very easy, very most easiest to attain, but is the most difficult. Why? Because it is of a different transcendental nature. Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us in the purport of this text that we're reading, that Lord Ramachandra, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he exhibited the quality of anger, for those who are intelligent, they can see the difference. And Prabhupada is explaining that when Lord Ramachandra exhibited the symptom of anger by opening his red hot eye, what happened at that moment distinguishes between man and supreme. It distinguishes between the dependent and the independent personality of God. These activities of the Lord, although we see the trace of it in the living entity, but when they are manifested, they are manifested at a different level. And Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that this that is felt by the entities in the ocean, the aquatics, cannot happen by the act of an ordinary mundane person. And that is what makes the difference between man and the Supreme God. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, is different because he is the source, the cause of all causes. He himself who has no cause. Prabhupada explained here that the impersonalists, or those who are bereft of knowledge, cannot understand this transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of God.
Will have many challenges to face, including Russia's war across the border in Ukraine. The International Monetary Fund's Executive Board.
Hare Krishna. So the personality of God, Krishna, is only understood by only one quality: bhakti. By the qualities of devotion or service, that personality, the Supreme Personality of God, who is inconceivable to the greatest of the greatest Jnani, becomes conceivable. And his activities, although human-like, is understood at the transcendental level. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the absolute truth is the source of everything. So, the absolute person cannot be devoid of the sentiments that are reflected in the temporary mundane world. It cannot be, because they are all coming from him. We see in different pastimes of the Lord. In the pastimes of Lord Parashuram, when he manifested, he had to kill all of the demoniac kings. Lord Parashuram went to perform austerities to purify himself, and this becomes bewilderment. And some says that he is not the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of God. Why? Because his activities cannot be understood. So here, Lord Ramachandra, who is the Supreme Personality of God himself, is exhibiting that quality just like an ordinary man. When he loses association of someone dear, or something that is very dear, becomes angry. But this is the transcendental pastime of the Supreme Personality of God. How can one understand this? It is said that by Mother Kunti, in the earlier part of this, in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kunti, in her prayers to the Lord, he said, those who do not have the qualities. In fact, she mentioned specifically that those who have material opulence, good birth, they are devoid because of their material opulence, but material good birth, devoid of appreciation for the Supreme Personality of God. So the Prabhupada explained in the purport that Supreme Personality of God, Ramachandra, his mercy, his anger is absolutely different. And only those who are devotees can understand this. When we are angry, our anger is to destroy. But when the Lord is angry, the anger is mercy. It is not different from his anger, and his mercy are not different. So Prabhupada explained that both the anger and the mercy of the Lord, they have the same qualitative influence. They have the same qualitative influence because they're not different, because the Lord is manifested in his loving nature relationship. So there's not mundane difference in the qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. But those who have not come to the path of bhakti cannot understand these wonderful qualities of the Supreme Personality of God. So that is why it is said that Vedantita Tattva Vidas, those who are transcendentalists, Brahmansas, they understand the Lord. In whichever way the Lord manifests himself, because they develop the quality of bhakti, devotion to the Supreme Personality of God. So this Krishna consciousness movement is giving the highest form of realization of God. Recently, someone was discussing and was asking, he said, what is the Krishna consciousness or Bhagavad Gita view of the war going on in Israel and Palestine? Why does such violence happen when God exists? Why is there so much of violence in the world? You're claiming that God is the cause of all causes. Everything is coming from him. But how do you understand this? Unless one develops the qualification of a bhakta in devotional service, the activities, the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of God cannot be understood. So Lord Ramachandra, in his pastimes of killing Ravana, saving Sita Devi, his pastimes with his monkey soldiers, his anger, as described here in this verse, are all his transcendental pastimes. And only a bhakta can understand this. In our course of becoming a devotee, in our devotional endeavor, one has to come to this realization that Krishna is the cause of all causes. Nothing can manifest, nothing can happen without the sanctioning of the Supreme Personality of God. That is the highest form of realization. And that's what Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarva siya prabha, mata sarva pravatate, iti macho bhajanti ma, buddhabhava samavita. This is the highest form of God realization. Because when one comes to that realization of God, there is nothing like hot or cold, heat. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when the subject matter of the creation was being discussed, material scientist knows the importance of water in producing fire. But how these activities manifest cannot be understood. And that's why the Lord himself promised Arjuna that one who understands these transcendental activities of mine is qualified to come back to me. And when he comes, he never comes back to this material world. And so someone asked, so all that is going on in our devotional life, individually and collectively, is Krishna also the cause of all of this? Yes, this can be very confusing. So many people are not following. There's so much of incoherencies. But that is also Krishna's activities. Because Krishna is fulfilling everyone's desire. But ultimately, his supreme will manifests. So to come to that realization that Krishna is the cause of all causes is the highest form of God realization. And is the most confusing for those who are not devotees of the Lord. And so Srila Prabhupada admonished the impersonalist grossly in this verse, in this text that we're reading. So Prabhupada, due to their poor fund of knowledge, they do not realize that the sentiment of the absolute person is transcendental to all mundane concept of qualities and quantity. And that is why those who are pure devotees of the Lord have to come to the platform of Madhyama to be able to preach. Otherwise, they cannot. Because in every situation, they see only Krishna and Krishna only. So as one grows in spiritual life, as one develops in spiritual life, one starts reducing the mundane form of anger and developing transcendental anger. Srila Prabhupada can be very fierce. He is sometimes even called fierce guru. His spiritual master is described as a lion guru. Uncompromising. But these qualities manifested by these great personalities are embedded with bhakti, with love. And that makes it different from our own anger, from our own fear, from our own manifestation of qualities that we manifest. Because whatever qualities that we manifest, even though they are present in the Lord, we manifest them out of hatred, gross pain. And that is the difference between mundane qualities. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, text number 18, Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that a learned sage, he sees the brahmanas, the cow, the dog, he sees them equally because he can connect, because he understands the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of God, how he manifests himself in every situation. And in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text number 10, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna, this material nature, he said, in never said, Madhya Kshena Prakriti, Suyate Sa Chara Charam. Etuna Nena Conte, Jaga Vipriva. That the material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, those one of Kunti, and is producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under his rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Everything is manifesting under his supervision. There is nothing Everything is coming from him. Krishna is fulfilling every need. Thank you very much for sorry. So coming to this realization that everything is a manifestation of the Lord gives the peace to the heart of the living entity. One becomes peaceful. And that state of peacefulness is called Brahma Bhuyaya. Brahma Bhuyaya. When you come to that state, in the Bhagavatam, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna uses that Brahma Bhuyaya so many times. When it comes to this Brahma, nothing disturbs you. Even when the most ugly situation is manifesting, one can see Krishna through it. And this happens. And I will try to round up here. When Lord Krishna, Uddhava is considered to be the highest of all jnanis. And when Krishna wanted to show him mercy, he sent him to the gopis in Vrindavan. And the gopis of when he met the governor, after giving so much knowledge of Gyan to the gopis, he became himself bewildered. Because Krishna wanted to show him how a devotee sees him in every situation. When he saw the activities of the gopis will see the butterfly. They can only see Krishna. When they see the trees, when they see the breeze blowing, they only see Krishna. That is the vision of a pure devotee. And this is the highest form of level of God realization. But then, that does not mean that someone is a rascal, then Krishna is the cause. That should be understood. Because Krishna is the cause of all causes does not mean that one should become whimsical and say Krishna is the cause of all causes. So my musicality is the cause of Krishna. Krishna is causing my musicality. No. That is distinguished from the scriptures. And that is why Prabhupada pointed in the text that the qualities of Krishna's anger, or when he develops fear, when Shishupal, when demons, when they attack Krishna, Krishna exhibits the qualities of fearfulness. These are not like the mundane fear that we have that is filled with so much of pain. So Lord Ramachandra, the summary of this text, Rama is narrating to Narad Muni. This different manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this particular Leela of appearing as Lord Ramachandra, the Lord manifests so many activities, human-like activities. His fear, his anger, his separation of losing Sita. Is living in his father's kingdom out of duty. Krishna manifests every human activities. When at the end of saving Sita, just because a rumor was passed, he separated himself from Sita. These are all his transcendental activities. And those who appear devotees becomes blissful when they hear and behold this transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Ramachandra's appearance and his activities, especially in this particular text we are reading, where he is manifesting his glance of anger over with red hot eyes, as described in the text, creating inconveniences for the aquatics and the living entities in the ocean, is one of his transcendental qualities and pastimes. And it's all meant to show his transcendental nature. So Krishna is shown as an expert actor. He acts in so many different ways, ultimately to attract the mind of the conditioned soul back home, back to himself. Hare Krishna. So I would like to stop here. And if there are questions or comments, contributions.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you so much for the class. Shri SALIKA Prabhu. At this point, if anyone has questions, please, you may unmute. You may raise your hand, or maybe your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, if I may put the verse back on the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Here, I don't remember exactly what you said, but I remember you say something like, for us as ordinary loving entities, when we get angry, it means we are ready to punish somebody. But when the Supreme Lord gets angry, is showing mercy. Here we see that the Supreme Lord, who was angry and his eyes turned red, caused the aquatics to feel the heat of this angry red hot, and they were feeling that burning heat. So if they were feeling this burning heat, how is that an expression of mercy of the Supreme Lord?
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
You know, with the question he asked is very beautiful. Thank you. Prabhupada actually said that in the purport. But to answer your question, how is the inconveniences the mercy of the Lord? You know, I was giving a lecture someday. So there are some set of young Fulani boys who came to the temple. So our situation was so bad financially, materially, they're actually going through a lot of pain. So I was trying to find a way to describe the mercy of the Lord, but because they are not so much educated, so I was finding an adjective to use to describe the Lord. So I told them, I said, Allah, let me speak in English. I said, God is like Sabulu. Sabulu in Hausa language is detergent, soap. So I said, to an ordinary person, God is like a detergent or soap, because you never have a need for soap unless you have some dirty things to clean. So I was trying to explain to them that when they come, as usual, they were asking, they want more, they want to become rich. So I was preaching to them Krishna consciousness. So I was explaining, I said, you don't need money. You don't need all of this thing you're taking. What you need is God. So they help and say, no, that cannot be, because that is not what they need. They are suffering. They need to buy this. They need. I said, well, God is like a soap. When there is dirty, there is need to. At the mundane, at the materialistic level, at this level, what you need is God. So the point is that I was trying to express to them that a pure devotee will not ask God for anything. But for somebody who is on the conditional state of life, the best option for him is to go to God, because it's like detergent that cleans off dirtiness. So our material dirty situations, our ugly situations can be cleaned. And that is actually what the scripture says. Back to that whether one wants work, whether one wants anything, if it's intelligence, go to Krishna. But the thing is that, why can pain become a mercy of the Lord? In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that when the Lord becomes especially favorable to his devotee, it takes away his material opulence, it takes away his comfort. So, and that is why I was referencing, well, in the course of discussion, I was mentioning Queen Quinty. Queen Quinty was explaining that those who have good birth, material opulence, knowledge, they becomes an impediment for them to be able to appreciate God. So in other words, when the living entity is comfortable, he has no need for anything. He does not remember God. So to save this kind of conditioned living entities from the repeated birth and death, the Lord, out of his costless mercy, puts them in an uncomfortable situation. But a devotee like Kunkuti realizes that without being put in difficulties, she is begging, my dear Lord, please, let more and more calamities come. Let these inconveniences come. To a mundane man, it is crazy. Everybody is asking for comfort. But Kunkuti is asking, God, give me more inconveniences. Because by that inconveniences, I can be able to, I can be attracted to you. I can behold your presence. So when inconveniences comes, when the situation comes, that inconveniences that the living entities in the ocean, aquatics are getting, is the direct mercy of the Lord. And that is exemplified in because the Deva, the deity who is in charge of the ocean, because she is a devotee, immediately when that situation comes, immediately surrenders to the Supreme Personality of God. So sometimes when difficulties come, we never, for one who's unfortunate, he will never remember God. But actually, difficulties are meant to attract one to the Supreme Personality of God, because the Supreme Personality of God is the, like we said, cause of all causes. He is whatever that the living entity desire is only manifested, is only present in the Supreme Personality of God. And when the living entity is so distracted, the Lord finds a way to bring him. So when he is too comfortable, he cannot be attracted to the Supreme Personality of God. So to attract him, so sometimes the Lord will give inconveniences. And that is why it is said that the Lord easily gives opulence, gives material, good, bad, and everything. But hardly he gives himself. Why? Because that is the rarest thing. So the inconveniences that those living entities are experiencing are mercy of the Lord to attract them to the Lord, because the Lord is all auspicious. And if the one who comes in contact with the Lord gets the ultimate benefits. And we see this even in the demons that were killed by Krishna, they all are liberated. You can imagine Putana intention was to poison and kill the baby Krishna. And Krishna sucked out alive. in a mundane experience, to kill somebody is the most heinous crime you can commit to the person. And jokingly, sometimes we say that everybody wants to go to God, but nobody wants to die. So death is a gateway to going back to God. Nobody wants to die. Because why? We're not ready.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. But as I sometimes read the scriptures and come across certain statements and descriptions, and also hearing the text today, and as you beautifully shared your wisdom on the text, I'm beginning to think to myself, what should I do? Because here I am in this material world with this material mind with which I used to think. And in this material world, there is this sense of beauty. When someone gets angry, when someone gets drunk, when someone is sleepy, their eyes get red. And when your eyes get red, they don't look good. They don't look beautiful. There are so many eye drops to help one relieve red eye, so that your eyes will be white. I personally use it sometimes because sometimes if I don't have enough sleep, my eyes get reddened. They don't look good. When you look at yourself in the mirror and your eyes are red, they don't look nice. But we read and we hear from the scriptures, the Supreme Lord has reddened eyes, and they are beautiful. So my question is, are we getting this sense of beauty as we understand it here in this world wrong, or what? Why is it that one thing is beauty to us and another thing is not beauty to somebody else?
Thank you very much. That's a beautiful question. Oftentimes when I speak, I like to start with the phrase of mine. It has become like a mantra for me, that we are all product of what we know. Especially when I'm doing public speaking, because it encompasses, it summarizes everything, all fields of knowledge. The living entity is a manifestation of three elements. Let me use them for the purpose of this description. The living entity is, or there are three levels of consciousness or understanding. The living entity has three components of himself. He has the body, the mind, and the self, the soul. So if the soul is on the bodily platform, it will see through the lens of the body. And because the body is materially, there is duality, because the whole of the material energy is covered by the three gunas: goodness, passion, and ignorance. So the moment one comes to the bodily platform, he will see things differently on that path, on that basis. When one comes to the mental state of life, existence, one starts seeing things at that level. When one comes to the soul level, and that is where I was emphasizing towards the end of the class, that the Mahabhagavats, because they are on the transcendental platform, they are on the platform of Brahma Bhuta, they do not see dualities. So everything is absolutely beautiful. They are seeing true equality. Everything is of the nature of transcendence to them. So our ugly beauty is dependent on the lens at which we are looking from, based on where the living entity is situated. And like I gave an example before, supposing somebody suddenly slump and die. From the bodily or material point of view, this is the most worst experience anybody wants to see. But when we look at the life of great personalities, they don't stay here for so long. They quit very early. Death to them is a gateway to greater happiness. And that is why he said, until and when one gets to the point of bhakti or pure love of God, he should pray not to die, but he will die anyway. So beauty is described based on the level of the consciousness of the soul. When a living entity, a male person, sees a female body, he looks at the beauty, but what is he looking? He's looking at the bag of mucus, bile, urine, and that is what he thinks as the beauty. He's not seeing this real beauty inside, which is the soul, because the beauty form that we see are manifestation of the goodness of the soul. A soul that is covered, that is sinful, will beget a very ugly physical form. So beauty is a qualification of a sweetness, of purity. And that is why even it is clearly stated in the scriptures that one who is transcendentally situated, who has gone to a high level of spiritual level of practice, the reward is that he has a beautiful body, he has a good bed, he has wealth. But when beauty transcends even at that level, one becomes a Brahmana. And when beauty manifests beyond that, it transcends the soul, becomes a Paramahamsa. And like Prabhu was saying the other day, when we were discussing about accepting a role of king or not king, and he was explaining, he said, if you want to avoid these things, just forget completely about these things. Get to the platform, just stay on the platform of Paramahamsa. Don't get involved. Because the moment you descend to this level, you have to deal with all of these situations. So beauty is in the eye of the onlooker, and the onlooker is determined by the level of his consciousness. So our definition of beauty, a materialist, he looks at himself. When I was in a particular forum and we were discussing, and they were asking what are the different qualifications of individuals. And there was one particular guy, he has 4 master's degree, he has 1 PhD, and he's doing his 2nd PhD. But you know what? Of all of those of us that were in that particular gathering, is the quickest person to get angry. He quarrels with everybody so often. So, but from material point of view, say he's knowledgeable, but he's actually an ignorant person. Although he has so much of material education, that is why education or knowledge to a spiritualist is different from what a materialist person calls a shadow. What they have, materialist has, is a shadow of knowledge. It's not knowledge, but they consider shadow to be the knowledge. Just like a foolish man accepts iron as gold because he has no knowledge of what gold is. So beauty is seen by an ignorant person based on this level of ignorance of what beauty is. Krishna is the supreme beauty. And that is why it's called all attractive. But who is going to see him as such? Unless one who is a bhakta, a devotee. I hope I answered.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting. It's interesting. Well, thank you. Thank you for the answer. Anyone else with something to share? I asked this red eye question because my eyes are already red, and when I look at myself, I don't look good. See, I'm sorry, but I have too many questions. If you wouldn't mind, I would like to put a verse on the screen. And this is Bhagavad Gita chapter 11.
1155.
1155 is the last verse. Is the last verse. And the last but one paragraph, Srila Prabhupada says something here, which oftentimes you hear devotees say. A devotee here, a devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy. Nirvairaha. How is this? A devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. So, Srila Prabhupada is stating here that a devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. And Srila Prabhupada also quotes Chanakya Pandit, who says that no one is born as anyone's enemy. Now, if we take these statements together and we look at the verse we read today, in the purport, which I have highlighted here, Srila Prabhupada writes, when Ramachandra was angry and showed his red-hot eyes, the whole ocean became heated with that energy, so much so that the aquatics within the great ocean felt the heat, and the personified ocean trembled in fear and offered the Lord an easy path for reaching the enemy's city. So here we see that the Supreme Lord has an enemy. And Krishna, even before Krishna was born, Krishna was understood to be the enemy of Ravana. And Ravana, Krishna was enemy to Ravana, and Ravana did anything and everything to kill Krishna. So how do we correlate these statements that one who is Krishna conscious has no enemy?
Very beautiful. That's a beautiful one. Enmity, just like every other qualification. Sorry, I'm trying to log on another system. My system just went off. So when we say enemy, again, the point is, what's our conception of enmity? The English word has limitation when it comes to describing the transcendental activities and nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The material language has no capacity, no ability to be able to describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his activities. And that is why it is said, the verse I quoted at the beginning of the class, Jamma kama cha medi viam ivam yoveti tata dia puna jamma naitima miti so juna. When we understand this transcendental nature and activities of the Lord, because they are transcendental, is enmity, is love. And that's what Prabhupada emphasizes in the purport of the text we are reading today. That they are the same thing. For us, enmity means negative, and friendship means positive, according to our material categorization. But to the Lord, both enmity or friendship, they are all the same. And even ordinary living entity who comes to the transcendental platform in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, there are several verses there, that one who is a devotee, he sees no dualities. He sees no dualities. So both friendship and enmity are the same. So yes, the Lord has enemy. Ravana is his enemy. Shishupal. And all of the demigods, all the demons, rather, they are all his enemies. But his enmity and friendship are not different. But for us, again, from the mundane conception of reality, enmity and friendship are two opposing qualitative descriptions. When we say enemy, immediately what comes is negative. But there is no negative or positive. When it comes to transcendental, that is why it is called transcendental activities of the Lord. Because they are not influenced, they are not covered by any form of dualities. And that is what makes it transcendental. And then that verse I was referencing, 1854, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasu Shati Nakant Shati, Sama Saveshu Bhutteshu, Mabaktim Labate Param. Unless one comes there, one cannot be peaceful. And that is why it is said that only the children and the aged are more favorable towards God. Why? Because they are neutral. They don't see dualities. A woman will just fight with her neighbor just now and nearly kill themselves. And the children of the opposing neighbors will go to each other and start playing. In fact, while they are breaking each other's head, they will be playing with sand together. We all experienced this when we were small. Our parents are fighting. Mama Sikra or Mommy John and Mommy Mary are fighting. And the children of the two of them are sitting together, playing with sand or riding on the bicycle, because they don't see dualities. So this duality is the cause of our pain. And that is why the whole of the Vedic scriptures emphasize on the need to transcend the three modes of material nature. Because until and when one comes beyond the status of conditional state of life, of dualities, one can never attain peace of mind. So Krishna's enemy and friend are the same. There are no dualities in Krishna's activities, nature, pastimes. He is of a transcendental nature. Yes, Krishna has enemy.
All right.
And I didn't Prabhu this up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Shri Anadinidanam Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
I see Prabhu. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyway, I don't know if my network is stable.
Yeah, we can hear you.
On and off. Okay, thank you.
You.
So, Prabhu, oftentimes we hear that whatever success one chop in devotional service is as a result of other devotees. So my question here is, so to be stagnant in devotional service, can there be the cause of devotees also? That's what I wanted to know.
Anadinidanam Prabhu ki jai. Shri SALIKA, I hope you got his question.
Please, can you repeat that question? I'm trying to get some power to. Yes, please.
Okay, his question is heard. Another you may repeat your question, please.
Okay, yeah, what I mean is, oftentimes we hear that whatever success one chop in devotional service is a result of the mercy of other devotees.
Absolutely.
So if that is the case, one to be stagnant in devotional service, in other words, not being able to advance in devotional service, can that also be the cause of other devotees? That's my question.
Saivam Pumcham Faruda Mo Yato Bhakti Adukshaja Aituki Apratiata Yatatma Suprasidati. Devotional service has no impediments. Now, let me explain from where you started the question that our success in devotional is as a result of when we have the qualification to become a devotee. Krishna arranges, just like I give a gross example. If you want to cook, you need fire, you need so many things. So when you develop the qualification to, or the desire to serve the Lord provides the ingredients, whatever is required for you to become a devotee. And in the same way, if you want to become a nonsense, like my Guru Maharaj will say, Krishna also makes available all kinds of arrangement for you to become that nonsense in a greater way. So if you are not advancing in devotional service, yes, on the gross level, Krishna will make those who are nonsense to surround you so that they can direct you towards your nonsense, so that you can enjoy that nonsense to the fullest. Just as he will send those who are devotees to you if you want to become devotees. So ultimately, it is our choice what kind of association we get. And so Lord Chaitanya Prabhu says, Brahmananda Brahmite Konya Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prashade Pai Bhakti Latabija. That when one becomes fortunate, he comes in contact with pure devotees. What is that fortunate? Yesham tu anta gata papam gena mam punya karmana. Te don't davini mukta bajante mam bridavrata. That when one has acted piously in previous life and in this life, one's sinful activities is eradicated. Krishna gives one the ability, that strong determination to engage in devotional service. So we are the cause. When we say Krishna is the cause of all causes, we should understand there are three primary causes. Krishna is the parama cause, or the supreme cause of all activities. We are the remote cause of our challenge or whatever we experience. And the secondary causes is material nature, who is working under the supreme personality of Godhead, as Krishna himself confirmed. The VSA Gunamayi, Mama Maya Durataya. Material nature is the secondary cause of our activities, because whatever we remotely desire to happen in our lives, material nature makes it happen under the guidance of Krishna. So it is by the association of devotees that we become advanced in devotional service. And our nonsensical experience, or our stagnation, our inability to grow in devotional life also is also arranged by Krishna through the agency of material nature, based on our inner desires and our inner wish in Krishna consciousness. I hope it answers your question.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the answer. Anadi Nidanam, I hope and believe you are satisfied with the answer.
Well, not really.
Okay, go
But
ahead.
then I have to meditate on this still and see. Because actually, it was Shiva Vanacharya who was giving a class and he made mention of this issue. So if they can, by their mercy, they can give you advancement in devotional service, but for the stagnation, they cannot make it. I doubt, though, but still I have to meditate on this to see how Krishna will be able to.
Well, I think His Grace Salika has answered perfectly to that question, in the sense that Yes, sometimes a very advanced devotee or Krishna may give someone who does not have any qualification, who does not deserve Krishna mercy, to have Krishna mercy. That is called kripa siddha. But we are performing sadhana. So it depends on what we as individuals do. If it were just somebody just giving us Krishna Bhakti, then anybody can do any nonsense and expecting somebody to just give it to him. But Srila Prabhupada didn't do that. Srila Prabhupada could have given all of us Krishna Prema, but he didn't do that. Lord Chaitanya could have given everybody Krishna Prema. He didn't do that. So to me, I think Salika Prabhu's answer is very expert and very appropriate to your question, in the sense that when we associate ourselves with advanced people, then those advanced people can help us in our devotional service. If we do not associate ourselves with advanced people and we associate with rascals, then they may influence us and we become rascals also.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I think your last point that you made, yeah, okay, yes, I understand. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Shivara Prabhu, did you have your hand up?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so I wanted to add some little thing to the comments about that question before Anandi need another question. What was that question? Your question, rather. Prabhu, your question.
Yeah, I think
what was that your last question?
I asked about 3 questions. I was asking about someone not being born as someone's enemy. But we
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that question is very tricky. It's a tricky question, and we have to be able to answer it. Do proper justice to it, because the topic at hand is also about personalism and impersonalism. And then when people start hearing these things about God having enemy and all that, they start saying, look at that. Look at that. How can God have enemy? So they become, they just play down. Just play down the fact that God can be a person. You see, God cannot be a person because he cannot have enemy. But this is where the different aspect of God's energy comes in. God is described as ompunam, all perfect, right? So it's like, the example given is that like electricity can produce heat, can produce cold, can, in between, in combustion and all that stuff. So can you really describe electricity as being negative? Or no, it's it depends on the receptacle on what side you're turning to that energy. So the energy is neutral, but the side you turn to it, you're going to get what you ask for, right? So God has no enemy. He said, "Samoham Sarabutesu." I'm equal to all. So that's it. That is God's energy. It's neutral. God is neutral, like electricity is neutral. And how you want to use it. So your receptacle depends on how. So those who want to see Krishna, Susupala and the rest of them, that is the side they turn to Krishna. That's how they want to relate to Krishna. That is their choice. Krishna was not angry with Susupala. Allah. No, Krishna accepted that if you offend and blaspheme 100 times, so Krishna gives enough rooms to everybody. You know how you want it. You know. So anyway, it's just to let us know that this question is very tricky, and Prabhu has actually explained long and large. But at the same time, we have to be mindful when we're answering this question, because people may use that to say that, look at them, they're saying that God is a person, and then he's hungry, and then he has enemy. That is a look at it. So to them, it's like it's bringing down what God's supposed to be, the divinity of God. So God can be in this regard. We can say that God is like energy. Is energy. The aspect, the energy aspect of God is what people are relating to. You know, in a favorable way or in an unfavorable way. It depends on what side you turn to that. I hope that is clear. Then the last one, Prabhu Anandi Nindanam question. Yeah, actually that name is Anandi Nindanam Vishnu. It's Anandi Nindanam Vishnu. That is the name. I don't know why they gave him half of it. Okay, so so that question, devotee, I think we should look at it at another level. I mean, the way you both have answered that is quite correct. But then another way of also answering that question is the way a devotee thinks. A devotee thinks that if I'm successful, that is Krishna and Guru's mercy and devotee's mercy. That is how a devotee thinks. But if anything goes wrong, I am responsible. That is how a devotee thinks. A devotee doesn't think some people make me stagnant and well, by their mercy I'm progressing, but then by their whatever it is, I am stagnant. No. A devotee thinks if anything good or any success comes my way is by the mercy of Guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas. But if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. So the devotee doesn't try to blame anybody for his misfortune rather than try to accuse somebody else. Devotee does not engage in blame game. Now, he sees everything as Krishna's mercy. And whatever is good, yes, that is Krishna and Guru and Vaishnava's mercy. But whatever goes wrong, I am responsible. It's my fault. Yeah. That's how a devotee thinks. So I think maybe that can also help you to understand better from another angle, answer to your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Prabhu, for the explanations and contributions.
Yeah. So nice. But Prabhuji, in that same stem of looking at things that if I'm advancing in spiritual life, it is by the mercy of Guru, Krishna, and Vaishnava, which is true, which is a reality, which is something recommended because it makes the devotee humble. But what about another devotee saying that I will make you a devotee? Like
that is
he has the power to give somebody Krishna Bhakti and saying, without me, you cannot make success in devotional service. So how should we see that?
That is bogus. A devotee will never say, I will make anyone a devotee. He will say, by the mercy of the Lord, okay, I can assist you to become a devotee. Prabhupada gives all the credits of making a person a devotee to his Guru and Krishna. That's how a devotee thinks. But if someone says, I will make you a devotee, it means that he's taking the position of Krishna and Guru. And if a bona fide Guru does not depend on his strength, because what makes him a Guru is that because he's a direct representative of the Lord. So
he sees the Lord as the instrument for whatever successes that he or she has been able to achieve.
That's interesting. Very nice sharing that. I mean, that reminds me of one of the papers we read a few weeks ago from Sri Prabhupada, that even the Lord in the heart, the super soul, the Paramatma, is dependent on Krishna. Without Krishna, the Paramatma is almost invalid. So if the Paramatma is invalid without Krishna, then what to speak of anybody else? So thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because I asked this question, I have heard a devotee make such statement before. So, well, thank you. It's been quite some time now. It's close to 2 hours. If no one has any question, comment, we may bring this to a close. And Salika Prabhu, thank you so much for the wonderful Krishna Katha. It's always interesting. It's always interesting that somehow Krishna arranges for us to come together 5 days in a week to at least in an hour or so hear about the Supreme Lord and his pastimes and have association with devotees, which is one of the most important 5 angas that Lord Chaitanya left with us, Sadhu Sangha. So we thank the Lord and the Parampara for giving us this opportunity. We have His Grace Harichakra Prabhu sent up. Prabhuji, you may unmute.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you very much, Salika Prabhu. Thank you for your wonderful class. Yeah,
Thank
about this Anandi Nidanam session. It's very disturbing. Basically speaking, we see that in, especially in this world, let's say like if a soccer team goes to a place and they do really good, we give the credit to the coach. Oh, the coach is doing wonderful. If they flop, even though sometimes people give the blame to the coach, but most of the time we give the blame to the player. Like for instance, when Ghana went to a semi-final in one World Cup one time, and what is his name?
Asamoah
missed the penalty.
Yeah.
He was in serious problem. Nobody blamed the coach for it, right?
Yeah.
But if he had scored the goal, everyone would have given the credit to the coach, that the coach trained them good. So I guess normally that is how it is. That if you are in a group and something goes wrong, you are blamed as an individual. But if something goes right, if everything goes right, then the credit is for the group. So the question that I'm asking, it needs to be properly thought of. I mean, you need to think of it properly, because sometimes it can baffle you. That why is it that if I'm making progress, then we attribute it to the vote? But the way Varahara Prabhu answered it also makes sense to me, because he says that a devotee, if you are a devotee, then you should think that whatever effort that I'm making, progress that I'm making, doesn't belong to me because of Guru, Krishna, and the assembled devotees.
Yeah.
But if I'm flopping, if I'm being stagnant, or if I'm falling down, then we can't blame it on anybody. We blame it on ourselves. I guess if we do that gives us the impetus to understand that we have to put more effort. We have to put more energy to whatever we are doing.
Yeah.
Other than that, I guess Anandi Nidanam has a point somewhere, and I guess. Because sometimes if you are not careful, you become so bewildered that you are thinking, such and such a person is the one who is pulling me down.
Yeah. Hare
All right,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for that
Thank you.
contribution.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Actually, it can be opposite. I mean, like those like for instance, Prabhupada gave the example of Jesus Christ in that purport, right? Like Jesus Christ had no enemy, but people still crucified him, right? So, but then that crucifixion actually is what made Jesus Christ glorious. So, what you might see, like this person is presenting obstacle to my devotional service by the way it's treating me or by the way it's excluding me or whatever. But that could actually be the way Krishna wants to make you shine.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that happens to us on the part of devotional service has to be accepted in good faith, knowing that Krishna is a Bhakta Vatsala, is a friend of his devotee, and he will not send anything bad in your way. So even those who seem to be like our opposition, or those who seem to
we lost Shima Vara.
Yeah.
But okay, he will come back.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the area that can seem confusing is how to understand if people really seems to be nasty towards us, or people
Oh, your line is breaking.
and it's making things difficult for us. Become, to become more advanced. That's how we should say. We should not see it like, this person can make me not to progress. Then that you're giving your power to him, and you're making a God out of him. No matter what that obstacle is, you should not make a God out of your obstacle. Never make a God out of your obstacle. You should see that obstacle as an instrument, a way of Krishna wanting you to shine. They say when Krishna put a devotee in difficulties to make him shine, just like gold, the test of gold is to put it under fire. The more fire that is under the gold, the brighter it becomes. But then if it is not pure gold, if it's just lead, when there is fire, it melts. So if we actually devotee and we're going through difficulty through some people, we should say that Krishna actually helping us to become better devotees. That attitude should be there. In the beginning, we may not be able to think like that, but that is the way we should think, and it helps us to grow. It helps us to grow. Otherwise, thinking the other way around actually can also cause more problem for you, because you can lose hope, become frustrated, and then all kind of things happen. So the thinking like Mother Kunti is the best way out. Anyway, I don't know whether I'm audible.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you very much for this last input. Yeah, because I remember when we were in secondary school, we had this one teacher. Nobody liked him. That teacher, he was horrible to us. Nobody liked him. But when we get out of school today, if I sit down and I remember everything the teacher was doing, I can now understand that, wow, this teacher was really, really helping us. But when we were in school, nobody liked that teacher. Yeah. During that time, if you ask students to go and kill him, they will not send him anywhere. They will kill him right on the spot. Nobody liked it. But today, a lot of my classmates, when you speak with them, now it's the time that we really appreciate what he was doing to us. It made us strong. It made us be able to stand steadfast against anything. So yeah, what you are saying is a point. And like Paul was also the book of Romans in the Bible, Romans 8:31 says that if God be with us, who can be against us?
Mm.
In other words, if we have Krishna, then who should be an obstacle? Who can be against us? Whatever comes our way is an opportunity for us to make a good, what we call advancement. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shrimvara Prabhu. Salika Prabhu, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here with you.
Okay,
Just wait.
I have a follow-up comment, which
Okay.
which will go to both your humble self and His Grace Shrimvara Acharya, because
Okay.
the last comment Shrimvara Acharya made, which is so beautiful, but I'm also thinking that if we do not look into what Shrimvara Acharya just shared with us deeply, that might also make some of us become indolent. In other words, if whatever is happening to me in my life is Krishna's plan, then why do I need to do anything to change Krishna's plan? Therefore, whatever is happening to me, let it happen. But I don't think that is how it goes, because Srila Prabhupada had so many difficulties that he could have said that this is a sign that I have to give up. But he did not give up. We read from Giriraj Swami Maharaj's book, I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu project. They faced so much difficulties that they could have easily said, okay, this is Krishna's plan. It's not going to work out. Let's give up. But they did not give up. And now, so I would want you to share with us how we should understand that whatever is happening is by Krishna's grace or mercy, and at what time do we take steps to undo what is going on in our lives? And if it is really necessary to attempt to do that at all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. This is a very difficult question. The principles of karma will explain this very clearly. There are 4 factors. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna also explained that brings about what we see in action. This individual karma or action, the influence of time, material nature, and Krishna. So all of this comes together to bring about a result that we see manifest. But all of the 3 other factors can be there, and still we may not get a result if Krishna factor is not there. But Krishna does not interfere unless we request. Just giving the example of Drupadi's case and the derobing in the court of Yudhishthira Maharaj, Dhritarashtra. Yes. By the action of her husband, she was put into that situation. Now, what is our own role inside of all of this? Because she's a wife, she's doing the duty of a wife, beautiful wife. She accepted. Of course, she gave several excuses for not to come out, but she came. Now, the activities that the living entity performs is one factor based on his desire. But just that alone does not, just like the English man says that man proposes, God disposes. Man proposes, God disposes means that man desires something and it does not manifest. And the reason why it does not manifest is either the time factor or it's not matured or it's not ripe, determines whether the devas who are working under the influence of Krishna's instructions have their act or position inside that situation determines. But ultimately, Krishna when Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharma Parityagyam, Mamikam Saranam Vrajam. So now what happens is that when the soul surrenders himself to Krishna, is engaging his activities, but just like back to the example of Drupadi. Drupadi was trying to hold he was trying to hold on the sari. But at a point in time, she left everything and she called upon, depending on Krishna. So when Krishna factor comes in, sometimes, even if when our actions are not there, Krishna he balances up everything. So back to the point that we're discussing, Krishna is it is the cause of all causes, does not mean that we should not put our endeavor. So in the example of Drupadi action now is a desire for the Lord's mercy. And the Lord coming in between and makes the miracle of unlimited sari manifest. So if deliverance is said, well, because Krishna is the cause of all causes, I wouldn't have to do anything. Just like another example, a farmer. The crop is not dependent on the farmer's farming nicely. A farmer can farm, till the land, plant the seed. But if there is no influence of the deva, rain, there will not be germination. If time is not in consideration, that is, if he farms in the dry season, not at the right time, still he will not get the result. But then Krishna can make in the desert to happen, for water to manifest in the desert. So that is Krishna's influence. But there must be the karma or the endeavor of the living entities. So these are some of the examples I think, from my understanding, can explain why the living entities should not be inactive, because Krishna is the cause of all causes. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if Shimavara Acharya has something to add before we close.
Okay. Yeah, actually, you are coming from another perspective right now. I mean, you're talking about giving up. That's not the point. Opposition, how to see negativity, whether it's causing our stagnation. That's what we're addressing. We're not saying give up. We're not saying give up. And the fact that you're not blaming somebody, that is not giving up. That is accepting. That is the acceptance principle. Accepting responsibility for bringing about the necessary change, without seeing that obstacle as for your progress. This acceptance principle, or accepting or taking responsibility when things are going wrong, is very important. Otherwise, we can easily lose hope and get frustrated. But when you understand the acceptance principle, it helps you actually by accepting a difficult situation or accepting what is unreasonable. It gives us experience. It leads to experience. Accepting the unreasonable gives you added experience in life, rather than wanting to blame convent, but accepting it in the right spirit, and then making the necessary adjustment, not giving up. You by the acceptance principle, you can change the
Prabhu is breaking up. What do we say? Well, I think we have digested a lot today.
Sorry for that. It's a network problem.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that we can change our direction, but not destination. If you're trying to get somewhere and there is obstacle in the way, that doesn't mean you have to give it up and say, well, they didn't let me get through. No, you can find another way to get to that place. You can change your direction. But if you want to say, no, unless I pass through here, or why are they not allowing me, that means you're going nowhere. Yeah. So when we see obstacle, we can change our direction, but we will never change the destination. So the acceptance principle is very important for progress. Otherwise, we can easily lose hope. But we're not saying give up. Nobody is saying give up. And then sometimes, not even sometimes, it's also another principle that resistance leads to persistence. When you're trying to resist an obstacle, it persists. So you have to accept that obstacle in good faith that, okay, I honor your existence and your presence. And as much as you want to be my obstacle, I also want to climb on you to get to my destination. You know, you have to climb on that, you have to climb on it, but then you have to be, how do you say, humble, endurant and tolerant, perseverant. You have to be perseverant, you know. But if you are in the spirit of blaming, then you cannot be perseverant. If you're in the spirit of saying that you are trying to stop me, you cannot be perseverant. You cannot be tolerant. You will miss out. So you have to first be how do you say, humble and accept the obstacle as Krishna sent. Krishna has sent it, and when you accept it as Krishna sent for your own growth, then it becomes easy to climb. It becomes easy to climb. That is the point we're trying to make.
Thank you.
We're not saying give up. We're not saying give up.
No. That's not what we are saying here at all. Yeah. I personally, I'm so thankful that somehow Guru Krishna arranged for you to come back to give us this concluding words that we may change our directions, but we cannot change our destiny. And the resistance leads to persistence. And we can learn all these things from a river. A river decides to go this particular way, and if it faces something, it finds another way around to get to where it wants to get to. So thank you so much. And we hope that we all can learn from this and try to apply them in our lives so that we'll have realizations and experience of what we are practicing. So on that set, we humbly want to request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, and all assembled Vaishnava devotees. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha Kalpata Yascha Kripa Sindhuna Evacha Patitanam Pavanam Krishna.
Yo, Vaishnava, Namo Namah.
All glories to